the idea is to take one chapter from the Gospels and walk through the story of Jesus together as you would join me on this journey. So, Matthew 15 is the focus tonight. Fact is, Matthew 15 and 16 are very similar to Mark 7 through 8, which we've just covered each of those chapters. And you'll hear in some of the similarities if you call it those, or if you just happen to read them for yourselves. But in Matthew 15 is a story that begins out also in Mark 7. It's a story about how Jesus's disciples, they were not washing their hands ritualistically the way that the Pharisees, the religious leaders at that time, would. And anyway, they gave Jesus a really hard time about that. And he answered them and said, and why do you break God's commandment because of your own tradition? God's commandments, such as honor your father and your mother, he says that you excuse people from obeying that command because of your own teachings, saying that, oh, I've committed my life and I've committed things to God to where I can't honor my father and I can't. And saying that they excuse that. And he's like, he said to them, it's what Isaiah prophesied correctly about you. These people honor me with their mouths, with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain, teaching as doctrines the commands of men, man-made traditions rather than God's own actual truth, God's own actual word, God's own actual law. And then he summons the crowd together and he kind of explains himself a little bit more. And he says, it's not what goes into the mouth that defiles a man as much as but what comes out of the mouth is what defiles a man, because that comes from the heart. Then the disciples came up and said, hey, you offended the Pharisees when you said those things back there. And he's like, well, every plant that my Heavenly Father didn't plant will be uprooted. Leave them alone. They are blind guides. And if the blind guide the blind, both will fall into a pit. Then Peter replied to him and said, explain this parable to us. And Jesus begins to explain a little bit more of what he meant by what it is that defiles us, being more so what comes out of us, not what we put into us. And he said, the things that you put into you, well, eventually it passes through and it's gone, it's done. But the things that come out of a man, such as out of a person, come from the heart, such as evil thoughts, murders, adultery, sexual immorality, thefts, false testimonies, blasphemies. These are the things that defile a man, that defile a person. But eating with unwashed hands, that is not what would defile a man, what would defile a person. Just really calling out, the traditions of the Pharisees, religious leaders of that time in Israel, as being not of God, and they weren't. And then there was, as you find in Mark 7, also this lady who is from Tyre and Sidonia, or Sidon. And she was referred to as a Canaanite woman here from the region, and came out crying out. And Matthew gives some extra details here that Mark didn't quite include, and that's, she was crying out these specific words, have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David, which is a messianic term, is a reference to Jesus being the Messiah. So, have mercy on me, Son of David. My daughter is cruelly tormented by a demon. And she's begging and pleading, and that generically is referred to in Mark, but I'm very thankful Matthew gives us a little bit more coloring of the picture here, a little bit more painting of the picture here. It's a beautiful tapestry between the different Gospels. Now they all complement one another. He says to her, he did not, and this actually is what happened to disciples. They say, hey, look, can you stop this lady? She's driving us crazy. She's really getting on our nerves. Can you send her away? And he replied in such a way that she would hear this, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But then she came and knelt before him and said, Lord, help me, the humility here, the faith here. He answered and said, it isn't right for me to take the children's bread and then throw it away to the dogs. In which, unfortunately, Israeli culture looked at people outside of the Israeli culture as dogs. That's just their mindset. That's where they look. But Jesus was really introducing a different mindset here. But yet he was using their terminology, playing along with the way their culture views those outside of the Jews at that time. And she says to this so wisely and with such faith, she says, yes, Lord. Yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. And just realizing that just the crumbs in and of themselves, all she needs, is all her daughter needs. And then Jesus replied to her, woman, your faith is great. Let it be done for your daughter as you want. And from that moment, her daughter was cured. Super stuff, awesome stuff. And moving from there, Jesus passed along the Sea of Galilee, and he went up on a mountain and sat there, and large crowds came to him, and he healed different people, those who were lame, those who were blind, those who were deformed, those who were unable to speak, and many others. And they put them at his feet, and he healed them. So the crowd was amazed when they saw those unable to speak talking, and the deformed restored, the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they gave glory to the God of Israel. That was the end result of all of this. Jesus was the God of Israel who had come in human form. And they were giving the proper glory to where proper glory was due. And then there is also the story of the feeding of 5,000 in Mark. This doesn't happen until the next chapter. Well, it's going ahead and being included in Matthew chapter 15 here. Jesus summoned his disciples and said, I have compassion on the crowd. And it's the same crowd that had gathered where he was doing all the healing. I have compassion on the people. They've already stayed with me for 3 days, and they have nothing to eat. I've had compassion on them. They have nothing to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry. Otherwise, they might collapse on the way. They might faint. And the disciples said to him, where can we get enough food to feed all these people? And he says to them, how many loaves do you have? 7, they said, and a few small fish. And after he commanded the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and he gave thanks. And he broke them, and he kept giving them to the disciples. And the disciples kept giving them to the crowds, and they ate until they were all filled. And then they collected leftover pieces, 7 large, full baskets. Now these who ate were 4,000 men. So here, in Mark, we were told 4,000 people, and it didn't say just 4,000 people. We know it was at least 4,000 people. But here it specifies it's not just 4,000 people. It's 4,000 men in particular, but also women and children. It gave us the fuller picture, the fuller details, the rest of the picture. And then after dismissing the crowds, he got into the boat and he went to the region of Magadan. Maybe you need your own touch from Jesus. Maybe you've never been touched from Jesus. Maybe you need a new touch from Jesus. Don't fail to push your faith in him. If you've ever put your faith in him, don't forget to keep putting your faith in him. Don't forget about what he's done for you before. He can do it again. There's no one or nothing that we need more than we need Jesus. And he can meet our every need, whatever that need is, at the right time, at the right way. He has compassion. Let him display his compassion to you. Let him show his love to you. He has so much love. His love is endless. He's an endless river of love for all who partake of him. Be blessed by the best.